Oh, hello, and welcome to another Draw with Mrs. Shano. Today I figured I would hop on the Among Us train since most of you kids are just obsessed with this game. I really should play it. But looking at some of these characters this morning, I was thinking these characters would be great for a value drawing. And you might be saying, what's value? Maybe you don't remember what value is. Well, value is one of the elements of art that we talk about in art class. Value is, in simplest terms, the lightest light to the darkest dark, and every shade and tone in between. You can have value from white to black. Let me see. Let's say I have a little rectangle here, and I want to go from white to the blackest black. I can very slow. Now I'm on clicky.com. Maybe you're on paper using a pencil or colored pencils or crayons. You can make a value drawing with any of those things. The one thing it might be hard to make a value drawing with might be markers. So markers might not be the tool for today since we're going to work with light to dark. But if you're really skilled with markers, maybe you can do that. Hold on, I've got my doggy here. He's just pacing. Serious? Lay down. Lay down. We'll play after my video. Alrighty, so let's see if I've got the right settings here. So I'm going to see, I have too much dark. It's a little hard sometimes to get just the right pressure on my computer pen. Let's see, let's do the opacity way less than that. Let's try this. I'll go to a lighter color. Here we go. But I'm trying to show you what value looks like before we really get into our drawing. Now I'm going to blend it all really nicely. I'm using my blending tool. If you're using a pencil, you can just lightly, without pressing too hard, go back and forth over the areas you've already colored, and it should blend it out. Or you can even, with your pencil, if you're using a pencil, you can take your thumb or your forefinger and you can rub it on the pencil and it'll all blend it together. Now I need the darkest dark down here. But you get the idea. We have, this is a nice value scale, what we call that. And a value scale is, again, the lightest down to the darkest. And I could have done this with white going down to red, deeper red, like a burgundy red. If you look here, you can see it. You go from light to the pinks, to the reds, to the deep brick reds, to the deep berry reds, burgundies, almost black, down to blackest. So that's a value scale. I hope I'm making sense. I'm making this video at 5 in the morning. I'm trying to drink my coffee, but it might not be kicking in yet. Anywho, I'm going to start out by making my paper in a portrait landscape for my drawing. Portrait is standing tall. A portrait itself is a drawing of a person's face, but portrait layout is when you have a nice tall piece of paper. So the first thing I'm going to do before I worry about value is I'm going to make my drawing. Most works of art start with a drawing. So I'm actually going to draw maybe 3 Among Us characters floating, and I'm going to have a fun little composition. Composition is the layout of your art, where I've got the corner of the earth up here and the sun down here because I want a light source. I think I want my lights. No, you know what? I'm going to do the sun up here and the earth down here. I changed my mind. Now, going back, you can change it if you want to, but I think I want the sun down here. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm sticking with it. So I'm going to put a little curve down here. I'm going to pretend that's part of the sun in outer space. I'm going to have my characters floating in outer space. I'm struggling to make, you know, I'm going to leave my original curved line. Circles, semicircles, quarter circles, and then straight lines are all really hard to draw. All right, and then I'm going to put a little corner for the earth up here. Now, really, in real life, the earth is way tinier than the sun, but in our drawing, we're going to make it kind of about same size. Maybe I'll make my sun a little bit bigger down here. Just for our drawing's sake, because the Earth next to the sun in real life, the Earth would look like a little tiny little, I don't know, like a marble. And I don't want a marble Earth. I want a nice big Earth. Us Earthlings feel pretty important, so we like to draw ourselves nice and big. All right, so there are my two shapes for my sun and Earth. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw my Among Us characters. Now, I want, for visual interest, that's eye interest, looking at it kind of interest, I don't want them just standing straight in a row. I kind of want them at different angles floating in my picture. So, and I can make some closer, which would make them look bigger, and some farther away, which would make them look smaller, since they're floating in space, like my inspiration picture over here. This is what we call a reference picture. A reference picture is a picture you can look at to help you know how to draw what you're drawing. Most people don't just imagine their art and draw it perfectly. Most artists, especially if they're working on a picture from real life, they'll use a reference picture to help them. No shame in that. So I'm going to start sketching it out. Now, I want my biggest guy to be kind of in the middle, floating. So I'm going to come around, down, over, up, over, down, over, and up to connect. That's the basic shape for an Among Us character. Then you're going to put his little, I guess it's like a space pack. That's my guess as to what that is. I'm sure you kiddos know exactly what it is. And then they have a little space helmet so they can view out and keep the air in. So that will be an oval overlapping a little past this line. So we'll have some erasing to do. There we go. And now I just need to erase where those two lines overlap. Goodbye. Let me get rid of the stabilizer. It's easier to erase with no stabilizer. The stabilizer tool on Clicky is helpful if you're trying to make a very smooth line, like when I was making those curves, because us humans, sometimes we have shaky hands. And I'm working on what's called the drawing tablet, which takes a little bit more of my control with my hand away. I'm best at drawing on paper, like most of us are. So I have some little tools that I can cheat a little bit with on Clicky. If you have to erase and redraw a few things in real life, that's perfectly normal. I'm constantly erasing when I'm drawing, which is why I draw very lightly. If I was using a pencil, you would not see black lines like this. You'd see very, very faint light lines. Now I have to decide where my other two guys are going to be floating. Now I don't want them floating right into the Earth or the sun for sure. So I'm going to have to draw them smaller. And I'm going to draw them at a different angle. So this little guy close to Earth, I'm going to make him smaller. He's going to be further away than his buddy here. Over, up, over, down, and up. And then his little backpack thinger. His little ovalish shape for his helmet visor. And erase. All right, there's number 2. And if you're unhappy with the shape, you can redraw it. Like I think that leg was a little wonky, so I'm going to fix it. If I can draw straight, which I seem to never be able to do. Let's try this again. Close enough. All right, and then I'm going to put another guy. Who knows, maybe I'll put a 4th. Maybe I'll put him up here. I don't know. Where do I want to put him? Sometimes I have to think about what my balance is in my art. Do I want everything kind of in a row? Do I want to throw another guy up here? Do I put one guy here and then put like an asteroid floating over there to offset that perfect symmetry and balance? I don't know. I might change my mind. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. He just keeps walking back and forth behind me. He's holding his ball in his mouth. He's like, Mom, it's playtime before work. I think I'm just going to have to put this guy here. And I'm going to have him at this bit of an angle. Too similar. Maybe even more of an angle. Terrible. Too skinny that big. Look how many times I erase myself. 1, 2. I'm actually just going to not even do the erasing part. I'm going to draw his visor right now, or little window opening to his helmet, and little battery pack thing, jetpack, whatever it is. Now, what you can do next is you can color your sun, earth, and background. I am going to put a little asteroid flying toward Earth. Doom! I'm going to put a little circle shape with, that actually looks like a person. I'm going to change the shape of that. Some fiery sparks flying past it. That makes me happier because it's not just 3 things in a row with 2 things at each end. I've got a little offset balance there. Now, space will be the blackest of black values. Remember, value in art is how dark or light something is. Now, I get to color really fast because I'm on clicky. You're going to take your time if you're working on this. If you're working on paper and you want stars, word to the wise, draw your little stars before you color. Okay? Maybe I'll do that to help you guys out because I know most of you are probably working on paper and pencil like normal people and not drawing on your computer like me. So I'm going to draw a few stars. I'm going to, still go in and cheat with my clicky tools and put some stars afterwards. But you're going to grab a black marker, crayon, colored pencil because space is so dark. There's, it's just empty space. That's why it's called space. It's empty space. So there's nothing for the light of the sun to touch and illuminate. So it's just an empty void of blackness until you see something like a planet, which will reflect back that light from the sun. So I'm putting my stars that I want, and those stars, they add some pattern and texture to our background. They make our background more interesting. I know here in Florida, we live near a major city, so we don't always see how many stars there are in the sky. But if you do a Google image search, or you go somewhere really rural, which means in the middle of nowhere, you'll see billions of stars. Some are closer and they're larger, some are smaller because they're further away, some are brighter because they're at a different age. Stars have ages, yes. And some are dimmer. Some are bluer, some are redder, some are yellower. Stars are an interesting thing. I'm probably going to leave all my stars white today, but who knows? We will see. So I'm drawing all my stars. You could draw a bunch of stars before you color. That is your choice, but I'm going to go ahead and use my paint bucket tool now and bang. That is the kind of background you want to see. You want a pitch black, darkest black value background for space. Now, your sun's going to be a different story. Now, in real life, the sun is like a hot white color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually choose yellow, and I'm going to go close to white, but I want a little bit of a warm color in there. White isn't really a color exactly. It's not on the color wheel. What I want to do is mix white with yellow here so that I have some warmth to my sun, the feeling of warmth in art. And warm colors are red, yellow, and orange. So I'm going to use red, yellow, and orange. And if you're using a pencil or a crayon, you can just very lightly, very lightly shade on top of that white sun. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to use my fuzzy brush here. And again, you can use your crayons, pencils, markers. Actually, honestly, crayons would be best to make the fuzzy looking appearance of the sun. I'm going to make the opacity really low, which means I'm barely touching so that it's mostly see-through. And I'm going to try and make the glow of the sun kind of. So it looks like that sun is glowing and there's a soft fuzzy light emanating from that sun. Emanating, that's a big word for some of you guys, or probably most of you elementary school kids. Emanating means it's like coming away from it, coming off of it. The sun is giving off a glow. Maybe I'll make a skinny little line and put some Some little sunbeams coming off. If I feel like it. And then it's on to Mr. Earth. It can be very fun to put some sunbeams coming off. It's really cool. If you've never looked at like NASA photos of the sun up close, to Google image search of that. Space is just amazing. What these heavenly bodies look like up close. All right, so Earth, I know we've got water, so I'm going to go ahead and pick a nice medium blue. I don't want my blue to get lost with that dark background. So again, we're thinking of value. I want a medium value of blue. I don't want the darkest blue because dark next to dark doesn't really pop. And then I'm going to pick a green, again, like a medium tone green. And I'm not going to overly concern myself with the actual shapes of all the landforms on Earth because I'm not even looking at the whole Earth. So I'm just going to put some green blobbies, organic shapes. Organic shapes are shapes that you might see in nature, shapes that don't have a name. So like not circle, not square, not rectangle. Organic shapes are just kind of, you see that it's a shape, but you don't really have a name for the shape you see. You would call it blob or zigzag or explosion, leaf, raindrop shape. They're not real shapes, not shapes we describe in math anyways. So there's my Earth, representation of Earth. And the reason we see the Earth is because that light from the sun, it's traveling through that void of space and bam, it's hitting an object and illuminating it. It's lighting up. Now, time to color. It's reminding me to save my work. I'm not saving my work today. It's all good. I'm going to pick a warm color for my middle Among Us character. Red is, I think, one of the easiest colors to see from far away. It's a very intense color. So a nice medium tone, bright, rich red is going to draw the viewer's eye right to the middle of my art, which is what I want to be happening right now. Now, his little visor on his helmet is going to be light blue. But this is a very flat drawing. I said this is going to be a value drawing. So, once you have your basic colors there, now I do want to say, if you're drawing with markers, the one thing I want you to make sure you do is there's going to be a white highlight on the helmet. If you're coloring with that, make sure you leave a little white spot and think about where your sun is. So if your sun's the bottom, your highlight would be down here because that's closest to the sun. If your sun's up here, your highlight would be at the top. These guys, their highlight is kind of at the bottom because the sun's below them too. So depending on the tools you're using, do the white first. Leave the white. Don't color the white because you can't erase some tools. So I have this blue with that white highlight. But now I'm going to go in with the darker values. So I'm going to go back. I'm using my red, but I'm going to, if you're using a crayon, press harder or use brown or use black very lightly to color on top. I'm going to use a darker red to show shadow and make my art look more 3D. The thing that is awesome about value is value makes your drawing look more realistic. It looks more 3D. So I'm going to put that darker color. I'm using the fuzzy brush with a medium opacity so that I can layer my color. But what I'm doing on my computer is the same idea as if I took like a red crayon and I'm pressing darker, or if I took a brown crayon and I'm pressing on top of this, or even if I took a black crayon and I'm very gently pressing. And look at that. All of a sudden, this jetpack looks like it's behind on the side of this body. And actually, I don't think I want all the shadow there. I think I want some of the shadow up here because the light is down here. I always have to think of where the light is coming from because where the light's hitting would be less shadow and where the light's not hitting would be more shadow. So I'm actually going to put the shadow mostly up here. Same thing. If the light is coming, here's the highlight. There's going to be a shadow around the top of that helmet and up near this side of his head or his suit. Maybe a little bit around here, maybe a little bit over here. Now this side of his body would be lit up by the sun, but this side wouldn't be. So use your crayon or your marker or your colored pencil. actually. I don't want to go around that foot. I want this side of the foot to be lit up, but not this side. I'm putting that value over here. Playing with value can be fun if you're drawing Among Us characters in outer space. Space is the perfect place to play with value because it truly has the brightest of brights in the universe and the darkest of darks. And that's what value is, light to dark and all that in between. All right, so look at him. He looks so professional now just because of the shadows and the highlights. Now, I want a little bit of shadow on his helmet too, so grab your pencil, your gray. Gray would be a great color. I'm just going to grab gray, just like you kids might use, or a darker blue. And you're going to put the shadow. So if this is the light part, this part here will be the shadowed, shaded part. There we go, shaded. Now the rest of this I'm going to do much quicker because it's running into my dog's playtime now, and he's very sad. So you pick whatever colors you want. I'm gonna go ahead and pick some bright colors that I enjoy. I think, yeah, I do. I want a bright yellow guy over here. So I want them all to just be different colors, but they don't have to be the same. And we're going to go in with value now. So, boop, boop, I'm going to go with my green guy, and I'm always thinking of where's that light coming from. Oopsies. And I'm going to put in the shadow. The shadow's not going to be down here. The shadow's going to be up here because the light's down below him. Shading the top part there. I'm shading this top part of his top of his suit. Maybe a little bit here. Maybe a little here and here. That should do it. I'm just going to blend it out a little bit more. Whoopsies. There we go. Sometimes you just have to finagle your colors to make them blend nicely. But blending it will be the difference between it looking really good and really wonky. All right, off to coloring my helmet. I forgot to color the helmet. I mean the visors. I keep calling them helmets, but they're visors. Again, the light's coming from down here, so my highlight is going to be here. Don't forget to leave that white if you're using markers. I'm going to grab the gray and low opacity. So if you're using crayons or markers, you're pressing very lightly to get that shadow. You don't want to make it too dark right away. So up here, I'm putting a little bit of a shadow. Up here, a little bit of a shadow on that glass. Maybe I'll put a little more right here on this one. Give it even more value. And now over to Mr. Yellow. I'm going to pick a darker color for my shadows. Again, the light's coming from down here, so this will be brighter, and up here will be darker. Darker up here. Maybe here a little darker. Value just adds that extra something to some art. Some of your art you can get away with putting hardly any value at all and just coloring basic colors in. And you can use line and pattern to make your art really exciting, but sometimes value is just the thing that takes your art to the very next level and makes it it takes it from good to amazing. So I'm just going to end my drawing with putting some little orange lines on my comet or asteroid or whatever this is flying through the sky. And a little bit of white, making it burning hot in the middle. Again, some value, lighter to darker, and all the shades in between. And that's, I think, that for my Among Us Draw With Me video, playing with value, lightest light to darkest dark, light and shadow, bright, bold color, and a clever design and layout will make a beautiful work of art for you that you'll be proud to hang on your wall. I hope you had fun. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye!